Welcome to a new edition of South Sound Business Report, where today the focus is on passion, profit, and bosses. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Jeff Rounds. Thanks for being with us. And thank you also to Puget Sound Energy for its continuing support of South Sound Business Report. Today's episode is a little bit different. Our guests don't actually have a place of business. They take their work to the client. Joe Sullivan is the founder and CEO of Market Insights, a company that helps small financial institutions prosper and profit. Here's my co-host, Holly Smith-Peterson.
Welcome, Joe.
Holly, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your company, Market Insights, has a very unique niche industry. Tell us about what you do.
Market Insights is a firm that I created in Chicago in 1993, and in a nutshell, we do market research, business strategy and planning, marketing and branding, primarily within the financial institution sector, but more and more small businesses and not-for-profit institutions, and we operate clients in 42 of 50 states.
So your headquarters is in Illinois, in Chicago,
Right.
But you're here as the CEO.
Right.
How does that strategy work?
Well, it took the wisdom of a 26-year-old colleague of mine to ask me one question, and he said, Joe, what difference does it make where you live, or where I live for that matter, because our work is all over the country. And how it came to be that I'm here is that I've always wanted to live in Seattle. And I would hear people say, well, you can't do that. You know, your company's in Chicago. You can't, run a company from another state. And so once I stopped listening to other people and listened to myself, I made the move, and that has worked out very well.
And that's part of what you teach other people through what you do, through your company's function, finding what your purpose is. What's some advice for teaching other people what their purpose is? What do you do on the job to show them how to do that?
We do a lot of things, whether it's a strategic planning engagement or marketing. We dig underneath and find out, why is this organization in business? What's your reason for getting out of bed every day and turning the lights on and walking into that office? There's some reason that you're in business. And so in the business world, they might call your purpose part of your brand. But in essence, whether it's an individual person or a company, there's a reason that we're in business. And as we'll talk about throughout this interview, the reason is not the sole purpose to make money. There are other reasons for why a company exists.
So, for example, for your own company, why do you exist? What is that purpose?
My purpose and then the company's purpose, and really they're intertwined. It's to help people grow. Okay. And it's to help people find their purpose, and to help businesses find their purpose and craft and help them with the strategies to take that purpose and that position to the marketplace.
Can you give me an example or two of a type of business that you've worked with, say a bank or a shop, just anything, and how did you help them find their purpose, and what was it?
We work primarily with smaller institutions, so a community bank or a small credit union would be considered the small business in the banking world. A recent client that we had in the Midwest, they're in a market with no population growth, a declining market share, population is leaving the area, and like every other community bank, they've really fought hard to say, we offer the same thing that everybody else does, the same services. How do we stand out? Exactly. So we worked with their board, we worked with their management team, we assessed their marketplace and looked at the demographics and everything about their business. And we came up and found out some unique things about this bank that I can't really share publicly right now because they're in the middle of rolling it out.
Okay.
But what we did is we helped them to figure out what their unique thing is. And that unique thing is what they can organize around. They can make decisions about who they hire, the products that they offer, the marketing that they do. But what it served was a unifying purpose for why they're in business, and they could make all their other choices from that.
And so for their customers, that would make them customers think of them that way, with that sole purpose in mind as well?
With the purpose that they had, we helped them to realign and develop a new brand position.
Okay, so
and that brand position is focused on the customer. And so yes, the customer will feel that and feel understood and heard by that bank and so forth. But it gets back to the purpose for why they are in business.
Now, passion is your second point in the purpose, passion, profit.
Indeed.
That's not a word you hear often in business. How do you encourage people, business leaders, and encourage them to help their employees find the passion and bring that to the job every day?
Well, first of all, I think that there is a real lack of passion in too many people's lives and too many businesses. So whether you call it mojo or your spunk or that thing that gets you excited every day, what I say to people is this, is that express your passion somewhere in your life. It doesn't matter if it's in your work life or your home life, because in reality they're all connected, and we've been taught in the westernized world that they're two separate things.
Exactly.
And they're not. And so I say to people, if you want to uncover your passion, go out and do something that you love to do. So whether you like to cook or water ski or swim or watch television or read, go do that one thing. And that one thing, it doesn't have to be big and bold, but do that one thing that you enjoy doing, because passion is about energy. And when you awaken that energy, you can transfer that into other areas of your life. So if you like to cook, as an example, or you like to bake, go bake a cake, because I think what you will find is after you're done doing that thing you love to do, you'll have more energy to deal with maybe a work situation that you didn't want to, or a neighbor that you have to have a conversation with, or a child that you may have to have a talk with, or whatever. So my biggest belief around the idea of passion is that we have to express it more. And it doesn't matter whether it's for work or for home. Just do it, because you'll have more energy to bring to every other part of your life.
And I know that you talked about when you're doing things that you love to do in your personal life, you mentioned something about bring it to the office as well. Talk about it where you work. Get other people involved, maybe even, and just engage, which is a good thing. But is that detrimental to the work environment?
Not at all. It unites people and brings them on the same page. We have a client where the president of this particular business is a runner. And so he's encouraged a lot of his other senior managers and frontline staff to go run. And he'll pay their entrance to the marathon and so forth. And what that has done is unite people and get them excited and give them something to talk about. Because when you connect with another human being on that level, it makes all the other businessy things that you have to do much easier and much more rewarding.
It puts things in perspective.
It unites the culture. It unites the small business, the bank, the coffee shop, whatever it is that you're working with.
So instead of bringing your own personal problems to work and having that negative energy, engaging with others in something that you love to do and making it more positive.
Yes, exactly.
However, the big question is purpose, passion, profits. Does doing all of this really result in profit?
It indeed does. And the reason I created what was originally a speech called Purpose, Passion, and Profits that has worked into workshops all around the country is this, that it is my fundamental belief that corporate America, large business or small, not everyone certainly, makes profit a strategic objective. Profit is critical. We all know that. We have to keep the lights on and pay staff and buy marketing materials. But profit is a byproduct of a clear and focused and up-to-date and relevant purpose. In the business world, call it your brand. It is also a byproduct of passion, of focusing on people and the team and encouraging the passion. And because what that does is it builds human capital. So from a profitability standpoint, if you look at, and I don't know which publication that I read this in, but if you look at the profitability of companies, roughly 50 to 60% of that profit is coming from a more enthusiastic and engaged staff who then engages with the customer at the same time. And so there is a definite need for that, and it definitely ties back to the bottom line because staff turnover is lower, motivation at the workforce is higher, customers feel like they've been more engaged with because they're listened to. And if you have somebody that likes their job and they go to work and they like their job, they don't have to say, I like my job. They demonstrate that through the actions that they say that require no words.
Absolutely. That goes back to that core energy that you bring and that you can share. Let's finally, you do some other things besides just with the company. You do some public speaking. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I do, and I always say that I'm the last born in a big Irish Catholic family, and so I became a speaker to get a word in edgewise, and that's always one of the jokes that you'll hear me say at a speech. But in addition to the consulting work, I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of conference keynotes and conference breakout sessions, and facilitating meetings and leadership meetings with individual companies in the Seattle area and all around the country for that matter. So it's about really doing the same thing, facilitating growth and change, and facilitating and helping people and organizations find their purpose.
And it works.
And it works. And it's fun.
Joe Sullivan, thank you so much for being with us today.
Holly, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Holly and Joe. Next up, a couple of guys who know a lot about purpose, passion, and profits, and getting along in the workplace. They host The Boss Show. But first, a message from our sponsor, Puget Sound Energy.
For more than 12 years, Providence St. Peter Hospital has been partnering with PSE's Energy Efficiency Program. As a result, in the past year, we've been able to save over $700,000 on our utility bill.
What PSE is doing by investing in renewable energy and wind farms is really an investment in the future.
We're in the community and on call for our customers day or night.
PSE is working hard to provide me and my family with dependable service.
Our next two guests have created an on-demand audio program for anybody who has a boss or is a boss. Jim Hessler and Steve Montenko are co-owners of Path Forward Leadership Development and co-authors of a book, Land on Your Feet, Not on Your Face.
Not on your face.
And I did that.
Yay.
That's cool. And you can walk upstairs and
talk
talk
at the same time?
time.
That's really good.
You must be a great boss, Jeff. Thanks for having us on the show.
Absolutely. The Boss Show is the name of your podcast. What is it? What is a podcast and what is the program?
Well, Steve needed something to do after they released him from prison.
Oh.
So we decided to do a podcast.
It was a misdemeanor. It wasn't my fault.
Of course not. And what did you learn during your time?
Well, what I learned was that we could actually, that Jim and I could get together, because he was the only one who'd put up with me, and put together an on-demand radio show, is essentially what a podcast is, available online, available through subscription, gets downloaded to your cell phone, your smartphone, or downloaded to your email, however you want to do it, and allows you to listen in your own time to, in our case, a show on sex. No, in our case, it's not on sex, is it?
Not very often. Occasionally.
It occasionally
it's
is.
been actually about sex.
Yeah,
all the time.
we did a show on sex in the workplace, sexual
I
harassment.
bet it was
in the
highly rated
workplace.
too, wasn't
Yes.
It's, of course, of course. You know, we try to aim at the lowest common denominator. We also did a show on romance in the workplace. But seriously, folks, it's really all about kind of anything involved in the workplace that people are concerned about. Thriving in the workplace, getting along with bosses. If you're a boss, getting along with your employees. Finding ways to make your work life satisfying, productive. There's no end of topics.
There's a lot of great business media out there, including your show, that covers kind of the strategic and the maybe the financial aspects of work, the market forces, things like that.
The really boring things.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
We really, we really wanted to talk about kind of the person-to-person component of the workplace. What dynamics exist between coworkers, boss to employee, employee to boss, things like that. And boy, you know, somebody asked me today, do you ever run out of subjects? No. I mean, we have a list of subjects endlessly. There's so many things to talk about in regard to relationships at work.
So the topic list has included sexual harassment, I know. It has, you said sex, you said romance. What other kinds of things come up?
You know, I mean, I like to think that work is a microcosm of life. I mean, it doesn't matter whether I like to think it, it's true. Work is a microcosm of life. Every issue that shows up in life is an issue that shows up in work. And as Jim said, the topics are endless. Micromanaging is an example of a topic that a lot of people are really concerned about.
Performance reviews was one of our shows.
Job interviews.
How to work through conflict with a coworker.
Conflict with a coworker?
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Actually, it's happened once or twice in the history of the world.
And it's been documented, so you can talk about it.
Right, so we could talk about it.
All right.
We often interview guests We recently did a show on signs that you're in the wrong job. How do you know that this job is wrong for you? You come home and complain about it to your spouse every night. Does that necessarily mean you're in the wrong job? Might you be in the wrong job, but it's okay for the short term before, while you're gearing up for something else. It's just endless.
What gives you two the rights to talk about these subjects? What's your background?
Nothing. It's my prison background partly, but because resolving conflict.
Well, it's a great question because we really have very different backgrounds. I'm the business guy.
Okay.
I'm the psychology guy.
Yeah,
That's
and
scary.
I actually don't have a college degree. I was a music major in college, and I really bootstrapped my way through my business career. And so working my way up to executive level in a Fortune 500 company. And obviously I have a lot of, real practical experience, a lot of it from mistakes I made, things I did wrong. And so, I come from this kind of bottom line profit and loss responsibility background that I've had for many, many years. Steve, on the other hand.
And I come from a teaching and coaching background. So I've been an executive coach for 10 years. I was a teacher for almost 20 years before that. I did graduate from college. In fact, not just any college.
Harvard.
But Harvard, which of course I like to lord over everyone because I'm desperately insecure. Yeah. And it helps me feel better than anyone else. So I have a degree from Harvard in psychology, and that helps me, again, feel better than Jim. But the amazing thing is, and we've been working together for 5 years. He comes from this deep business background. I come from this deep psychological background, coaching background, personal coaching, and then executive coaching. And even though where we come from is very different, we agree on so much about what it takes, not just to thrive in the workplace, but to be a great leader. We agree so much on it that we often think we should disagree more because it would make better radio for the podcast. And we do occasionally disagree on the podcast, and we get into fisticuffs a little bit. Not too much. We don't do
Are
too
there
much
pictures?
damage. None that you would have access to, I'm sorry.
All right. One of your recent topics was electing the boss. We're in an election season. People are thinking about candidates casting their vote. Electing your boss?
So I got to say that one thing that Jim excels at is coming up with these kind of out-of-the-box thought experiments. And this was one of them that was really intriguing and got a lot of response from the show.
Yeah, we asked the question, if your boss ran for re-election, and all the employees got to vote on whether your boss got to stay as boss.
Would she or he win?
Would they win the election?
Right. And should they?
And then we went into the discussion of whether that's really something that a boss should be shooting for. And we really had a good discussion about that just between the two of us on the show. And the conclusion that I think we both came to was nothing wrong with wanting to win that election, but run for the election that's going to be held in 2 or 3 years rather than the election that's going to be held next week or next month. Because there are things that a leader has to do that are unpopular. So focusing on immediate kind of acceptance and popularity from your staff might not be a good practice, but earning their respect and trust and support over the long term, yes, absolutely. You want to win that election.
As a leader, you got to be looking, and we're constantly talking about this with our leadership development clients, you've got to be looking at a more distant horizon than your employees are looking at. They're there to do the day-to-day tactical work. You're there to take the bigger picture strategic view. So if, again, as Jim says, if it's a popularity, if you're trying to win a popularity contest, you may not be being a good boss.
I, in the introduction, talked about it being an on-demand audio program. You call it a radio show. Where does the Boss Show originate? How do you create it?
We record the show at the Cairo Radio Studios in Seattle.
So it is recorded in a radio studio.
It wouldn't have to be, but
what station and what time does it appear? Where do I find it?
Yeah, you can only find it online. You can only find it on demand, which is really, I mean, I say radio show, it feels like a radio show, it sounds like a radio show, but it's not accessible in real time as a radio show is. In other words, it's not live.
So you can't call in, for example, during the show.
On the other hand,
there was a little humor to your asking the question, I know, because this is the question we get. especially from people in our age group. What time is the show on? Well, it's a podcast, so it's on whenever you want it to be on.
I'm never late.
Yeah, exactly.
It starts the moment I push the button.
Exactly.
Or click the mouse.
And it's surprising how hard that concept is for people to get used to. A live radio program on at a scheduled time versus on-demand content. And we just love the on-demand content part of it because we did live radio last year and found it far less satisfactory than actually doing this, produced, editable version that's done and given out on demand.
So do you have any evidence that people are downloading it, are listening to it, and where
We
are
have
they?
3 listeners,
Okay.
and they're very,
Your mother,
they're
your
rabid
mother.
fans.
Okay.
No, actually, we're really pleased at the growth of our podcast. The numbers in the thousands, and for where we are and only having done 22 shows, we think we're getting a really good response to our programming. It's a subject matter is that everyone can relate to. We have an almost unlimited potential audience for this podcast. It's exciting.
So that takes care of the question that I had prepared. Who would benefit from it? You just said everybody.
Jeff, I think people tend to resign themselves to their work lives, their dissatisfaction in their work life, to the extent that they're dissatisfied in ways that they don't resign themselves to dissatisfaction in other spheres of life. My passion, and I know Jim feels the same way, is that it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to be fundamentally dissatisfied with your work life or with your boss just because you get a paycheck for it. So what we're about is helping people to become more satisfied in the 8 or 10 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week that they spend in this activity called work, which is, I say, is really just a microcosm of life. So in that sense, anybody who's interested in making their work life better would be a candidate for listening to the show.
And we try hard to make it practical and not, theoretical. A lot of really what we talk about is sometimes very simple practices that can really change the dynamic of the workplace for people in a very, very positive way. And leadership comes from all levels. So, for example, how we manage our relationship with our boss is hugely important. Most people think it's the boss's job to manage their relationship with their employees. We argue it's just as important as an employee to manage your relationship with your boss. And there's ways to do that. And it can create a tremendous improvement in the working environment for both parties if everyone takes responsibility for the quality of that relationship.
If everybody's willing to work on it.
I think you two are only the second instances that I've had in meeting someone who is the star of a podcast. How does one get that job, and does it pay well? Is this all for fun or what?
Oh my God, it pays so well, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, we're making billions from every...
It's the groupies. We got to talk about the groupies. It's unbelievable. I mean,
we had to beat the crowds away.
I know.
Yeah.
It's to get, that's our life now.
What lies ahead for the Boss Show?
Well, we really want to continue to build the listenership. As Jim says, it's building pretty steeply. We want to continue to do that. We want to continue to produce shows that both entertain and inform. I mean, we really want to be offering value, but in a spirit of that people enjoy listening to. So, I mean, we both thought that either of 2 tracks will work well for us. The show becomes so successful that it becomes the primary focus of our careers. Again, offering value and entertainment, or the show brings more and more business into our leadership development work, so then again we can go into organizations and help people navigate the complexities of workplace relationships.
Thank you very much, Steve Matenko.
Thanks for having us on, Jeff.
Jim Hessler.
Thanks, Jeff.
The Boss Show. Holly?
And that wraps up today's South Sound Business Report on passions, profits, and bosses. Our special thanks to guests Joe Sullivan, Jim Hessler, and Steve Matenko. We also want to thank Richard Aronson of Mobility Media Design for his assistance in production of this program, and special appreciation to Puget Sound Energy for its long-term sponsorship of South Sound Business Report. We'll be back next week with another episode of South Sound Business Report. Tune in, same time, same channel.
The Olympia Farmers Market. You can just taste the excitement. The best seafood, the freshest produce, organic meats and savory cheeses, the most delicious baked breads, the prettiest plants and flowers, and the finest handcrafted gifts from all over the South Sound. Listen to the great sounds at the covered Farmers Market stage and picnic area. Meet old friends and enjoy the festive atmosphere you can only find at the Olympia Farmers Market. Thursday through Sunday, 10 to 3. The Olympia Farmers Market at the foot of Capitol Way in downtown Olympia.
For more than 12 years, Providence St. Peter Hospital has been partnering with PSE's Energy Efficiency Program. As a result, in the past year, we've been able to save over $700,000 on our utility bill.
What PSE is doing by investing in renewable energy and wind farms is really an investment in the future.
We're in the community and on call for our customers day or night.
PSE is working hard to provide me and my family with dependable service.